Hello. I promised another reading from Chapter 1 of The Order of the White Boar. As I'm continuing from my previous reading, this doesn't need much of an introduction, except perhaps to say that 12-year-old page Matthew Wansford has received a bit of a beating at the hands of older page Hugh Soulsby. I eased myself to my feet and went to retrieve my sword. My shoulders were stiffening already after the battering I had taken, and the light cloth of my undershirt caught painfully against bruises where Hugh's stinging blows had landed. As I picked up my sword, I weighed its burnished chestnut blade in my hand. They might be made of wood, but these play saws could cause damage enough when wielded by someone with that much hatred in him. I slunk off to sit on a mounting block by the stables, while Hugh joined the throng of pages, and Master Fleet set another pair of boys to skirmishing with their wooden swords. Sweeping the dust and grit from my front, my fingers found holes again in the woolen fabric of my doublet, where it had already been patched. My eyes stung as I remembered all the mending my mother had done before I came to my new home. Feet scraped on the gravel. A shadow fell across me, and to my surprise, other hands began brushing dirt from the back of my doublet. "There," came a voice. "We'll have you clean enough before the Duchess returns." I blinked away my tears and looked up. One of the other pages stood there, a fair-haired, open-faced boy with freckles and laughing eyes. I knew him only by sight. No older than myself, he was, of course, taller, as were most boys my age. He was smiling down at me. "You must not mind Hugh," he said, after a moment when I did not speak. "He doesn't mean it." I grunted. I fear he does. "He's only jesting. He's like that with all the new pages." "Jesting?" I drew up my doublet and undershirt. As I thought, the bruises were growing livid. The dark reds, blues of a deepening sunset. A fine sort of jest that leaves marks such as these. But he was the first boy who had spoken friendly words to me since I'd come to the castle, so I forced a smile. But perhaps he just doesn't know his own strength, like an ox who could break down the gate with one kick and be free, if only it had the brain. The boy laughed. "Maybe. Soulsby the dumb ox. It has a certain ring to it. Perhaps when he is a knight he can adopt it as his badge. Vache noire on a muck brune chump." I frowned at him. That sounds like very poor French. Well, I'm not much of a scholar. He sat down beside me, making me shuffle along the block to make room. French, Latin, scripture, it's all the same to me. I'm made for dancing and sport, hawking and hunting, not classroom learning or weapons training. That last was true. I had seen him fighting before my bout with Hugh, and he was little better than myself. "And you, Master Wansford, what do you do well?" "I'm Matthew," I said. "Or Matt, if we're to be friends." The words sounded to me as sharp as a dagger's stab, but it was too late to bite them back. But the boy only smiled again. "And I'm Roger de Kinton, son of Sir Dennis de Kinton of the King's household. Perhaps we will be friends, so long as you don't outshine me in all our lessons." "I'm not sure I do anything well. I've been here such a short time." "But Master Guildford said you were at the Minster School in York. Doesn't that mean you can sing like a bird?" My stomach lurched as though I'd been hit again. I had hoped that no one would discover where I had come from. I tried not to show it, but Roger must have seen something in my face. "Don't worry, no one else knows. I overheard Master Guildford speaking with the chaplain before you arrived. He said you left under a cloud, but nothing more. What happened? Or do you wish to keep it a secret?" "I would prefer to. I came here to get away from it all. There are all sorts of rumours among the other pages about why you're here. None of them to your credit, of course, but they'll soon fade. Rumours always do, even here. They'll get bored of them. And if we're to be friends, perhaps you'll tell me another time?" I could have kicked myself again. No other page has spoken to me like this, and my secret could ruin everything. But I had to keep it, at least for now. Perhaps. It's not so very interesting. In that case, I'm sure it can wait. A trumpet blared in the distance. Roger jumped down from the block. "But maybe our dinner can't. Come on, we'd better hurry. They'll be clearing everything away early today before Her Grace's return." He grasped my elbow, pulling me with him across the outer courtyard. The other pages were already streaming through the grey stone gatehouse into the smaller inner court. Several eyed us with curiosity as we joined them in the shadow of the massive keep beyond. But Roger only winked at me as we all filed up the covered stairs that clung to the outside wall. We washed our hands in the basins held by servants in the wide doorway of the great hall, then made our way to the pages' table. As we sidled between table and bench, Roger nudged me and pointed to the high table beneath the tall arch windows at the far end. "It's Hugh's turn to serve Master Guildford today, see?" Master Guildford was the steward who ran the castle when the Duke and Duchess were away. He sat in the Duke's own place to preside over meal times. Hugh was standing very straight behind the carved oak chair at the centre of the table, his chin up, looking neither to left nor to right. As I watched, Master Guildford strode into the hall and onto the raised dais. In his livery of deep red and blue, embroidered with the Duke's badge of a White Boar, he was an imposing figure as he stood there, raising his hands for silence. Hugh stepped up smartly, ready to push the chair forward for him to be seated. The chaplain, Sir William, was standing in front of a similar chair alongside. As the hubbub of the busy hall subsided into quiet, he bowed his head and folded his hands on his rounded belly to say grace. Roger put his lips close to my ear and whispered, "Hugh will become squire next year and hope then to do the same service for Duke Richard. The likes of you and me will have to settle for serving lesser men." "But didn't you say your father is one of the king's knights?" "Ah, but lords trump mere knights. Did you not know that Hugh is nephew to Sir Walter Soulsby?" I shook my head. The name meant nothing to me. But after grace finished and we all sat down, Roger carried on, seemingly unaware. "His lordship may have fought for the Earl of Warwick against the king, but that was more than 10 years ago. Now his loyalty is not questioned, and his family enjoy high honour at court. My father says Hugh and his cousin Rafe are destined for great things." I glanced again at Hugh, now helping the steward to his meat. He might be only a year or two older than me, but he was far taller, broader, almost a man already. With his fine manners and rich brocade tunic, to my eyes he looked every inch a knight in waiting. I could only dream of reaching his position in life. I turned to my own trencher, now filled for me by a servant, and began to spoon up my mutton stew from the bread. If you've enjoyed Chapter 1 of The Order of the White Boar, please do look it up on Amazon. It's for sale also in all good bookshops. Hopefully I'll have another reading again for you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.